Right behind me is where the three states of Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma all meet. There's a stone marker back there that was erected in the 1930s, but right here behind me, that's the exact point that was determined in the 1850s. And this is also the beginning of US Route 166. Just across the trees, as I look over here, I'll take a little drone shot and I'll show you exactly where 166 starts officially. It's right where I-44 intersects here with 166, and actually 166 and Route 400 are combined until we get over to Baxter Springs. But what is 166? This is basically a version of Route 66, or a very similar road to Route 66. In 1926, this road was built from Baxter Springs to South Haven, Kansas, and which is going to be the most of the route that we explore in the next couple days. And that was, at the same time as Route 66 and a lot of these other roads that were built, 166 was built. And then in 1945, they extended it east over to Springfield, and it paralleled Route 66. So there were 66 and 166 kind of paralleling each other over there. And then when Interstate 44 was completed in 1966, they truncated the 166 back to this point. And we're actually in Missouri for a mile before we get into Kansas and start exploring around. So a lot of people might not, realize the history of this road. There's a lot of small towns. Today's part, we're going to go over to Coffeyville, Kansas. That'll be from here to there, and see if we can find some nice historical towns and anything interesting in the often overlooked other Route 66, which is actually 166. As we turn off of I-44 onto 166, you can see the start of the route up to Baxter Springs. This is the little part that is in Missouri, and one of the first things is this cool old classic RV park sign. Definitely like seeing that. And right away we're crossing into the state of Kansas right there. And then this, little spurt between the Missouri border and our first town is mostly road construction right now. So at least they're, improving the road, but there's not much to see here early on. And as we get close to the first town, that is the Spring River, and that will bring us into Baxter Springs. And if you watched my channel recently, Baxter Springs was part of a longer video I did about the Route 66 towns in Kansas as we cross Route 66 right here in Baxter Springs. Just to the west of the town is the Baxter Springs Cemetery, and it's no ordinary cemetery. Established there in 1863, it has got a lot of Civil War history and has over 100 Union soldiers that were killed during the Baxter Springs Massacre in 1863. So very historic place. It has all the soldiers' names that fought here, and memorial is over 20 feet high. Just along the side of the road here, I found this old abandoned church. I don't know anything about it. I don't know how old it is. It just was sitting there all alone on the side of the road. Looks like they used to have Wednesday evening something at 7 o'clock. It's a beautiful day, but it's very windy today. And so that's why I'm in the car. But I took a little 1 mile detour south of 166 because on my map I saw something that said Captain, and we're real close to Treese, Kansas, and Pitcher, Oklahoma, right on the border. And those are towns that were, totally abandoned because of toxic mining situations. So we're literally a mile from Treese, which is just north of Pitcher. And Captain must have been some sort of a mining situation. As I drove up, you could see the piles, the chat piles they call them. And I kind of got out and walked around. I don't know if there was a town or if it was just a mining operation named Captain.
Yeah, so maybe somebody out there can help me. I looked it up, couldn't find anything. And but interesting, just south of 166, there's a lot of interesting stuff to see. I like to go a mile, north or south of the places I'm exploring, because often you'll find a hidden gem that isn't on the road. Obviously, we're exploring 166. We're going to go through everything there. But I just saw on my Google Maps as I was driving Green Lawn Cemetery. So, okay, I'll check that out, just like I went down to see what Captain was. And I got up here, and it's interesting because there's two churches. There's a Free Will church that obviously was a school. And it has green lawn in the bricks, so it must have been Green Lawn Elementary or something. And then from here you could see another church over there, and then there's a Green Lawn Cemetery across the street, and it dates back to 1870s. So I don't know if that means there was a town here. I couldn't find anything about a town. There had to have been obviously some sort of community. And but yeah, very, very interesting. A little bit of peer pressure over there at the church, as their visitors are welcome and members are expected, so you better be there. Yeah, interesting, and glad I took that little mile north on the dirt road to check it out. So let's get back on 166 and continue heading west.
And here is the interesting small town of Chetopa. This originally began as an Osage village and was named after Chief Chetopa, who lived here and was one of the chief counselors of the Osage Nation. You can see a lot of interesting buildings in that downtown area. Then in 1847, a trading post was established here to trade with Osage Nation. I love that old Sinclair gas station right there. There's a mixture of old buildings and kind of abandoned buildings. Post office was established in 1867. The railroad came through in 1886, and then that was abandoned later on. The population peaked at over 2,000 in the 1890 census and has fallen down to 929 today. But really neat little small town here, Chetopa, Kansas. Our next incorporated town along US 166 here is Bartlett. Very small town. The population has gone from 249 down to 69. But some cool things here. That's, I'm guessing, an old store of some kind. And then there's the post office. And I couldn't find much else until I saw this. I thought it was an old school, but it's actually a township hall.
So I see a little dot on the map that says Cecil, and sorry it's loud because I'm on a bumpy gravel road, but I see a dot that says Cecil. No idea what it is. There's a cemetery on my Google Maps, and I go, well, I'm going to check that out. I pull up, and there's an old wooden sign there. It says Cecil Cemetery. A barbed wire fence. Didn't look too inviting, but I figure there is no one out here. I'm going to go check out the cemetery off into the distance. I walk over there, and some really cool old, headstones, and from the 1800s, a lot of them, and figured it must have been something church or town or something here, but who knows. So as I'm walking back, there's actually a mom and her daughter and their dog, and they're going for a walk, and they actually live down the road, and they tell me that there was a town of Cecil. There was a chapel or a church there, where by the cemetery, and that there was a small town, and that they had found little parts of it, little things here and there, but it had mostly, when the railroad bypassed it, people moved over to Bartlett, where we were just before, which is now a really little town. And so the one story, though, they told me that was really interesting was there was a church there, and twice it had gotten demolished by tornadoes, and once it had burned down, and they had a Bible that survived all three of those things. And so I think that they took that Bible, it's somewhere in safekeeping now, but that was a great story. Obviously never would have read anything like that online. Glad I took the little 1 mile detour south to find Cecil.
Next on my map, it says Elm City, and I didn't find Elm City. I'm guessing that is maybe an old railroad stop, but I did find the Elm Christian Church down this back road, so maybe named after old Elm City. And then we go to Edna. That is our next incorporated town. It was established in 1878 with the post office, and in 1886 the railroad came through, helped it grow to almost 500 people. Now it's 388, so still a pretty solid town, and has some great old buildings like this bank building with the neon lights. Very awesome old building there, and a nice little town to visit, Edna, Kansas. As we head west, we're almost done with our trip today. We come across Pumpkin Creek Cemetery, and I couldn't find anything out about this cemetery, and I read there the pioneers of Pumpkin Creek were buried here, right in the middle, so interesting little cemetery.
We are rolling into Coffeyville, and that's going to be our destination for tonight. Coffeyville's a lot bigger than any other place we've been today by quite a bit. So the sun is setting. I'll try to show you some of the cool stuff here because it is a pretty historic place.
Coffeyville's the largest city on this stretch of road with 8,826. It's down about half of what it was at its peak in the early 1900s. Founded in the late 1860s, and really grew because of some natural resources in this area. And a lot of these old buildings are from that time when it was growing in the early 20th century. This is the famous bank that the Dalton gang was attempting to rob, and unfortunately met their match with the citizens of Coffeyville. And the telling of that story is right here in Death Alley, where a lot of the violence occurred. On the walls, they have some paintings, and they they retell the story. It's a very interesting way to do that. There were 5 people in the Dalton gang, 3 brothers, as well as Dick Broadwell and Bill Powers. And 3 of the bandits went into the bank and they demanded money. And it was at 9:20, and the employee said the safe would not open until 9:30, so they had to wait. And in those 10 minutes, the townspeople had some time to go grab guns and ammunition to get ready to defend the town. And then, when they did come out, there were shootings all over the downtown area, and 4 out of the 5 gang members were killed. And then there were also a few of the citizens that got killed as well, and many of them right here in this alley. Following the shootings, the Dalton gang members were, quote, laid out in the city jail for the public to come and see. There's the famous picture of them in the jail. And then this is the jail itself. See if we can see anything in there. Make sure to come back for part 2 as we travel the final 100 miles of US 66 to South Haven, Kansas. If you like this video, there are several ways to support the channel. You can donate by hitting the thanks button under the video or purchase Travel with a Wiseguy merchandise. In the description of this video is a link to my website where you can learn more about the channel and sign up for my newsletter. And if you aren't interested in any of that, I'm just happy you took a few minutes out of your day to watch this video and learn about this section of US 166. Thank you very much, and now enjoy these outtakes at my expense.
This big stone marker behind me represents the point of which Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma all come into one place. So 3 states in one spot. Actually, it's right there in between the little wood pieces there. What am I doing? And just saw Captain, which whatever, too windy to talk out here. Pretty historic place, so the sun has to hit me right when I was trying to finish up what I was gonna say.